Good evening, and welcome. Hey everybody, tonight we got a few shitlords, and we're going to talk about some random shit. And we don't have anything in particular on topic, but we were just discussing beforehand a little bit about video games. So I'm going to start this discussion with some talk about the coming game Fallout 4. Because I am particularly interested in this game. I've been following Bethesda games for a little while now. I played Oblivion, I played Skyrim, I played all the old Fallouts, and I did play 1 and 2 as well. And I'm basically fangirling for this game completely, and I'm screaming in anticipation for what I'm hoping will be.
Scream.
Yeah, basically. I am very much in great anticipation for this game. I plan to play it basically night and day and never stop. So, anybody got some opinions on either games that are coming out like this season or Fallout 4 in particular?
I am also going to play to death.
Yeah? So
Yes.
what are you? How are you going into it? Are you going into it blind? Or are you going into it with some information? I'm going into it basically blind.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch the special videos.
I haven't watched hardly anything at all, so I would like it to be a surprise. Yeah, sure. I think
Yeah,
I've seen like one trailer, I think, and I don't even know if that's gameplay or not.
It's Bethesda, so the game's gonna be 10 times as epic when there are mods for it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so we were talking about this before the show. That basically there are
PS4.
two options here. Either buy the game right out the gate and basically spend all the monies on it, or wait about 6 to 8 months for the dev cycle to go through and all the mods, the good mods and the good patches, the official and the unofficial patches to come out for the game, and all the DLC to be released and all of that shit.
And for the price to be dropped in half.
And the price will be dropped in half, true. So, like, I don't know. Do you guys have any games that are similar for you? That, like, is there a game for anybody here that's really nails it on the head for you that you would pay the money for pretty much regardless of whether or not the game was, like, you're just ready to pay for the money because you want
Well, I mean, are you talking about a new game or an old game?
It could be an old game, could be a new game, whatever. Just whatever.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I was saying off air that I threw $1,000 at Flights in America.
Right.
I mean, that's $1,000 US smack in their face for me.
Yeah. I have only played. Which one was that? That's Knights of West. What?
It would be. Did you ever hear of Planescape Torment?
Yes.
Okay, so this is basically by the same guys that did that.
Okay.
It's basically another iteration of that world, sort of, and that those writers.
Right. So I'm curious to know, like, what games, like, Alan, are you just playing Darkest Dungeon right now? Like, what have you been up to? Like, what I want to hear what games you guys play besides, or what games you guys are anticipating. Like, because this is supposed to be a big. Is anybody gonna play Battlefront, for example?
I was playing
yeah,
Darkest
dude.
Dungeon for a while. I'm still playing it now and then, but it's getting to the point that the formula is starting to get stale a little bit. But I'm anticipating Fallout 4 as well. I'm pretty anxious to get it released. I have to upgrade my hardware to make it work perfectly. But as Will said, I'm in the same line with Will. I'm going to wait a little bit until the prices go down and it starts to get a little bit more stable.
All right.
But we can have a race though to see who beats the game first.
Well, I don't know. The chick with the giant Asian boobies is probably going to beat somebody up.
She might, yeah.
Yep. Well done, Matt.
So we were talking about.
Hopefully
Does anybody have any more game stuff? Because otherwise, Lenny was talking about some political stuff going on in this country before we went on air. Lenny?
Yeah.
Is
I
there
want to
any
play
Dead or
American
Alive
Truck
game coming
Simulator.
out?
What game?
There, any Dead or Alive game coming out?
Magic?
I don't know. Well, I could talk about politics in my country, but it's depressing. I mean, it brings I have close
No
to
one
my
cares about
neck.
Belgium.
Well,
I
I want to play
let me give
American Truck Simulator.
I played Euro Truck Simulator,
Full
but
Euro Truck. Yeah,
actually,
Why
American
would
just want
you?
to drive across
I've
America.
never understood those games. Like what? It's
I
like
actually I enjoyed it.
Okay,
You know
so
what I
Will,
did?
imagine if you're listening to a podcast
Yeah,
and
exactly. Perfect.
just wanna-
Exactly. You put on a podcast, you put on like something you like to listen to, some good tunes, and you
Uh-huh.
just like drive down the open road.
yeah, that's I play games like Fallout when I do that.
Yeah. See, I
Yeah.
like to really immerse myself in Fallout. Like, I fucking put on the headphones, I turn the volume way up, and I get into the dungeons and shit like that. I like to I voice my character when I'm talking.
Uh huh.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
Really?
I do.
Fucking nerd, bro.
Damn,
Oh my god.
I don't
So
care.
what's your voice your character? That's your
Just my regular voice. I don't do a voice. I
Ah.
just talk.
Right.
But I sometimes do voices for NPC characters that I might think would say something.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then there's magic. Anyway, I had a small short story before to kind of segue into what Lenny wants to talk about. So I had my first experience really with social justice warriors in my college the other day, and in my teacher. So we were doing basic psych, and we had this this image. We were doing what's it called images that are ambiguous images, right? So like where you see two faces, or it might also be a chalice and stuff like that. And then we went on to like sort of advertisements. And there was one advertisement, the first one we saw, which was a Burger King ad. And there's a woman, and she's got her mouth wide open, and she's pointed, like her mouth's pointed towards a sandwich. And it says, "It'll blow your mind away," or something like that. And she implied that the woman looked like a blow-up doll, and this was objectification of women. And then we moved on to a image of a car, a sports car, with a woman's legs falling out, like just coming out of the doors, like in sort of like, "Ooh, look, you might have these legs." And so then she was talking about like how it's objectifying to women, and how we just use women. Who is this target at? Oh, it's targeted at straight white men, and yada yada. And I heard one person in particular actually mentioned that there is a gender studies program in my school. So I now know there is in fact a gender studies program, and there's a heavy liberal and left-wing bias in pretty much everything that's going on in the school. Just every teacher. It's pretty daunting, actually.
Have
So anyway-
you? Wait. Have you actually talked to say your economics department? Or your STEM guys. Here's what my experience was: is that certain portions of the school were dominated by different factions, and I had a generally better time if I just avoided factions I didn't like and stayed with factions I did like.
Right.
I mean, so I would hang out with the STEM people, I would hang out with the economics people, but I would avoid a lot of the liberal arts stuff that was.
Well, you see, I'm part of the basically. I mean, general arts and science is basically liberal arts, so I
Well,
kind of can't avoid that at the moment. Especially because I'm not planning to go into STEM. I'm planning to go into music engineering. So and sound engineering, sound design.
Right.
So I don't see myself at
The computer
aspect of that.
the computer science guys also tend to not be very social justice.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, so Lenny, what's going on in Belgium?
Oh God. Well, it's a shit show. I mean, so what's going on in, for example, we've recently increased our terror level in our country, which is sort of a which is increased security, increased soldiers on the street, whatever. And the reason I did that is not because they fear some sort of, I don't know, foreign attack, but because they're afraid of the native population, that they're going to lash out against immigrants, even though there's no evidence that that's going to happen anyway. But they're having a lot of security at sort of the refugee bases and stuff like that, and they're sort of being very mistrustful of the people who live in Belgium. But what's also happening at the same moment is that subjects that are being discussed in the parliament are being shut down by different different parties in the parliament because to them it was too offensive to discuss. That kind of stuff is happening in my country. Also, we also have been seeing an increase of people in my country calling for more powers to the EU when it comes to foreseeing monetary policies and economic policies and even social policies. So, well, it's pretty shit. It's a shit show.
What's too offensive to talk about?
Well, we have two big provinces that kind of want to split up. So that was the discussion, but they saw it as an attack on Belgium, which is hilarious because it isn't. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it is an attack on Belgium, though. I'm not. If the country breaks into pieces, then the nation has been dissolved.
Right.
In that sense, yeah.
Well, in what sense is it not an attack on Belgium?
Well, it is. It is.
What's left is not to be
Belgium. I
Belgium.
didn't quite
but
understand what was meant by it, but yeah, that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
but the way they frame it is hilarious because they have this sort of the parties that shut it down were the Social Democrats from the French side,
Right.
and they frame it as sort of, well, I'm in favor of free speech, but this is too much.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, but that's a very common thing that a lot of people say whenever they say they're for free speech. Is they always say, "I'm for free speech," but
insert exceptions that don't
Right.
make sense at all and
Yeah,
are arbitrary.
and it's very common to hear people say, and I think actually we've had some people even in the group, even in this group, that have said, but, and so it's something I expect in any free speech discussion that, you're going to get some people who are crazy like me, and they're going to go, well, no, just say whatever you want, go for it. You want to rape babies? Tell me about how many babies you want to rape. That's just the speech aspect of that. That's where I am with it. But a lot of people, they hear it and they go, well, you should be able to say this, but not that. And it's very common.
Right. It's also very arbitrary. It's just made up on the spot, generally.
Sure.
But beside that, what we've been seeing recently in Belgium is this is the thing in Belgium is the presence of unions here is very big. That after every sort of thing that's decided, we generally get a lot of protests, and they have a lot of power in a sense because they can just shut down entire roads and shit like that, and they've done that before. And we've been seeing an increased an increase in unionization, but these are public unions, obviously. We've been seeing them getting very active recently because they tend to always get very active whenever there are some austerity cuts. They can sometimes tend out to be violent, but not always. This is also something that's been happening. And we've also recently had, this is boring, it's just Belgians. I mean, recently our Prime Minister was in a car accident. I mean, that's hilarious, I suppose, but I mean, yeah.
Thank you, Lenny.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know.
That was beautiful.
I don't know. I mean, you ask me about Belgian politics, I can just report on everything that's happened.
You did well until you got to the car accident. Then we were like, okay, Jesus.
In Canada, we just elected a fucking new prime minister. I'm sure everybody knows. A prime minister whose goals include targeting Gamergate and electing a fully half and half female male.
Oh, are we clapping now? Congratulations, Guinness! You just elected the president of Tumblr as the president of Canada.
How do you
Yeah! Congratulations!
How do you target a hashtag?
I don't know, but he said that that Gamergate needs to be stood up to by the general populace.
Right. Yeah.
Well, people could just grow some balls.
That's what Canada. That's Canada's problem. That's what Canada. It's a national issue for Canada.
It is. Canada's.
Have they told you his strategy or her strategy? I don't even know who got elected. Have they said what the strategy
Trudeau,
is?
it's a guy.
Okay, it is. Has he said what the strategy is for standing up to Gamergate then, and how he's going to manage to stand up to an army of anonymous people?
I think it was just the one quote, and there was an article that expanded on it, like blah blah blah, misogyny games, blah 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 blah.
Not let people
It's just anti-noise.
No, the reason is because Justin Justin Trudeau panders to women because, first of all,
No.
I think
he is.
Really?
No. First of all, he's very appealing to women. I've heard. And second of all, he likes to. He's an SJW, so he panders to them. Obviously, he
But
panders to minorities.
I think Alan got it right. Alan's Spawn is there, or not Alan Spawn, Wayne Spawn. But Alan had it right when he said that Canada elected the
president of Tumblr.
The president of Tumblr. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's not if anybody was taking Canada seriously anyways. I mean...
You know what? I'm actually starting to think that we should build a wall, but I think I'm going to move to Quebec, and the wall should be around Quebec.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Quebecois would be all in favor of that. I
like the idea. I'm going to go live with Magic.
I think the Quebecois have been saying the entire time that that's how things should be.
Yeah.
You want a force field. Think futuristic.
Like
what has been the response then to the election?
Generally positive, mostly.
A lot of creep pants.
Enormous, amazing fapping from all the feminists. I'm sure.
Lots of fingering going on.
Oh God.
So,
I don't know what the big boner is from though, because generally liberals don't put up with their shit that they try to implement. It's just milking the cow, you know.
Yeah, milking it.
So they won't whatever issue they created, they won't solve it.
Of course not. Of course
exactly.
not. Yeah.
So it's the same with the legalizing weed and shit like that.
No. I mean, we get that in the United States all the time with all their little various social issues. It's like you could solve it, but they don't want to solve it. They want to keep winning elections, saying that they're going to solve it. That's really what they want to do. Or they want money to solve it. But if they actually solved it, see, they couldn't take the money to solve it.
So whoever we elected prime minister, I don't care that much.
Oh, Magic. You should.
There you go.
Fucking nihilists.
I'm not nihilist.
What about American politics? Let's hear about some American politics. What do you think about the?
I like the Trudeau now. I like the Trudeau and I like Trump.
We were
going ahead at the final.
We were watching some of the debates last night, or like excerpts from it in the YouTube app, and Magic likes Ted Cruz because he's such a fucking cunt to the moderator.
That Cruz is pretty epic though.
Magic approves of Ted Cruz.
He doesn't even care what his politics are. It's just like he just enjoyed his cunty responses.
Exactly. I mean, those moderators were horrible anyway. So.
Oh yeah, no, they always.
It's well deserved.
Yeah,
right.
no, they keep asking retarded questions. Like, so how many children have you lured into your van and fucked? It's like, what?
So how many immigrants do you have on your whip, Donald Trump?
Yeah, or they'll go and they'll say, so this other person has said some policy that's different from your policy. Tell us why you think he's a fuck ass.
Right.
And it's funny. So at the beginning of a lot of these debates, and they've done it in every single Republican debate so far, the moderators. What usually happens is the candidates don't figure it out for the first 2 to 5 minutes. And then after that, they're in on the joke. I think this time they recovered pretty quickly. The only real blow-up was at the beginning when Kasich was queried about some statements he had made prior to the debate, and he basically was shitting on, I think, like Trump and Cruz and, I don't know, some other people. And that caused a blowback from those guys, and they kind of went at it. There was some pudding. It was pretty hot. But after that, it calmed down, and every single time the moderators tried to do it, the candidates just instantly kicked them directly in the groin.
Right. And I mean, apparently, Rubio made a very interesting statement while he said the biggest super PAC for the Democrats is the mass media. I think that's what he said also.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
So guys, we're about to have so we can't get Shultz in today because he's apparently there's been a time mix-up, but we do have
really? How'd that happen?
Yeah, I don't know who did that. Whoever did that's a fucking idiot. We should hang.
Yeah, that's you, Guinness.
Seriously though, we have another person from Red Pill Gamers who's going to join us, and that is
Cool.
Mad Cat.
Oh, sweet.
Awesome.
Nice.
And Guinness, this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Who's gonna join us?
Blame Canada.
Fucking cat.
Canada.
An evil cat's going to join us. An evil cat warrior mecha.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Mac. Yeah, I got you, bro.
Oh, okay. I'll try not to fuck it.
Anyway, so American
Be the
politics.
first crazy pussy you'd fucked with it.
I want to hear what the American would vote for. The Americans, sorry. Who would they vote for if they had to choose between the Republican candidates and the Democrat candidates?
There aren't any. I mean, it's.
Let's say they're all. Let's say you could just choose. Who do you want?
Okay.
Then I have to choose
who's
a
available.
Republican or Democrat.
I mean, I'm sorry. I have to go with the Libertarians. It's just, it's what I choose. I don't like them in all things, but in this
Feel the cruise.
particular situation, I can't deal.
Feel the burn.
I can't deal with.
I want Trump to
Hillary.
go Democrat, and then having Trump going against the truth. Yeah.
We are joined by Mr. Madcat. Madcat, say hello.
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 So, we want to talk a little bit about the Red Pill Gamers thing, man. What is it all about? Give us like a brief summary. You said that Shultz is working on getting a site up, so just like kind of introduce us to. Let's say we were completely unfamiliar with it. What would we want to know about it?
Red Pill Gamers is really like you and your friends coming over, drinking beer, and watching some stupid movie and cracking jokes about it.
AKA every day of the week.
Yes.
Seems like a blood.
But,
yeah, I like it.
But we look at video games, we also look at the art of video games, and every now and then we get serious and really talk about the issues that we see in there. Like the first video game we did was Spec Ops: The Line. And we're cracking jokes left and right and saying some really awful things, but, it was all in good fun.
Right.
But every now and then we saw something really horrific that really told us about what war was all about, and we discussed it in a very serious tone about the effects of war or the expendability of men.
Right. Yeah. So it's sort of like I mean, it sounds a little bit like what we're doing here, but with video games. Just
that's a good topic though that he's bringing up.
The whole war thing.
The consequence of war, the beneficial one and the not so beneficial one. Because there's major development in technology because of war too. So.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, war would you say war is inherently a good thing because it's inevitable? Magic?
I don't judge things by good or evil, but it's there for sure. So yeah. In fact, it brings up a lot of death counts, and on the other end, it brings up major development in technology. So.
Well, it accelerates technology. One of the things that and this is controversial, but I guess one thing that I would say that's nice about war is it requires a society maintain a base level of competence.
Yeah.
Because if everybody's just kind of fapping about, eating coconuts and I don't know, just doing nothing, then at some point there are going to be some conquistadors that show up with some rifles and war horses.
I think you know what I like,
and they're just going to roll through and just dominate everybody.
I like the newly I've learned about what country was it? I think it was Switzerland.
Yeah.
Was that the country with all the guns that that was not invaded during World War II?
Yeah, yeah. No, Hitler actually wanted to invade them, and every single plan he got back from his generals was citing casualty figures that were so fucking high because the entire goddamn population of Switzerland was effectively an army.
Yeah.
And they were like, I I have the Russians to deal with. I have the British to deal with. I have the Americans to deal with. How about we just deal with Switzerland later?
Yeah, well,
You know, I don't want the cheese that bad. Not yet. Maybe later when I make my
The
sandwich.
gnomes of Zurich, armed to the teeth.
what do you think, Mad Cat? About the whole war thing.
Oh God, Mad Cat went into a coma.
Sorry, I spilled my soda on myself. I need to go change my pants. Oh wait, I'm not wearing pants. Oh, know that. I think war is one of those things that every leader wants to do. That, if they had to fight themselves, maybe we wouldn't see so much war.
Right.
It's always about, let's take these faceless young men and throw them at our enemy, and if we win, everyone will thank me, and if we lose, well, hey, these young men are to blame. It's always, war always seems to be a proxy, if nothing else, and it's always about sacrificing men for something usually pointless.
Well,
yeah, I agree more with Mad Cat than I do with I think Magic and Will. I mean, I see Magic and Will's point, but I don't know. I think that war is something we should. I mean, I know it's inevitable, but like I said, I like the Swiss idea of sort of defensive arming. Like being prepared but not invading.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the issue with the Swiss model is it only works so long as the deterrent is sufficient. So, in the case of World War, what's that?
It's not just that. Switzerland has something very unique in that it's surrounded by allies who.
Right. Exactly.
It's not in their best interest to allow Switzerland to be destabilized.
Mm-hmm.
That model couldn't be applied to, for example, Iran.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Israel.
So we're kind of straying off the topic of games here.
No, well,
let's get back to games for a moment.
Okay.
And so, Alan, you want to talk about games?
I wanted to talk about Fallout 4. You were so happy to talk about it. We could talk about any of the other next releases or any other game that you guys are playing.
I'm planning, like I said, I wanted to hear. We kind of just strayed off into nowhere.
So why don't hear what we got a guest on here? Why don't we ask what his opinion is?
Yeah, what do you on Fallout 4?
He's just gonna pass out over there.
On games, we're talking I'm anticipating Fallout 4 a lot, and I'm gonna play the shit out of it, and I plan to.
Janice is squeeing like a schoolgirl.
I really am.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what games are you guys looking forward to, particularly in this season? Are there any AAA games you're gonna play? Are there any indie games that you're really looking forward to? Are you gonna play?
We have discussed plans of doing Fallout 4 when it comes out, as part of things to be shitlords on. So that's in the discussion right now. I know they play a lot of games, and I can't really speak for them what games they want to play. Unfortunately, with my entire situation, I'm not really able to play any new games right now because I'm still on an old Windows XP computer.
Holy shit.
And I have no console, so I have to play a lot of older games, but I've used that to my advantage for Red Pill Gamers. We recently did a stream where I got the video together for the Stanley Parable.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, dude, I love that game.
There's a sequel to that, isn't there? Or sort of a spiritual successor that just came out?
Really?
Something. I think I might be thinking of something different, but there's some game. Oh fuck, I can't remember what it's called. But I think it's from the same developers as the Stanley Parable, and it's in the same engine, I think. I'm not sure. If you guys want to talk about games, I can look it up while I find it.
Well,
what is Stanley Parable about? I never played the game yet. A lot of people said it was good.
The Stanley Parable was about basically the narrator telling the protagonist where to go. And what makes the game so beautiful is you can work against the protagonist, basically make the wrong decision over and over again.
There were like 10 plus different endings, depending on everything you do.
20.
Oh,
Wow,
yeah,
that's a
20.
lot.
Yeah, enough.
Are they distinct endings, or is it like one of those endings like, the universe is going to explode, but this time it's going to be with a green laser instead of a red laser?
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
wait,
are.
no, you changed
No,
something
I think
earlier.
no one really
It's going to
liked the
explode with a
Stanley
blue
Parable.
laser this time?
They're
Let me
all
explain the Stanley Parable to you a little bit. You're the
choices.
character, and there's a narrator, and pretty much you as the character try to troll a narrator, but pretty much every time you troll him, he gets back at you.
Ah. Sorry,
what we-
when I hear multiple endings, I have to bring up Mass Effect 3 and shit on it. Sorry. Carry on.
Of
Well,
course,
what we
yeah.
described the game to being as an example of a bad DM.
Huh.
Because every time you try to do something against him, he's like, no, you can't do that. I'm going to force you to do something else, and you still can work against him. So it's like, this is what a bad DM is like.
Yeah.
Sweet, so like me, I'm gonna break all of Guinness's instruments.
I can't
what
specify
makes
the game, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a similar story-based game that was in a similar engine that was just released. If I could find it, Mad Cat, I will send it to you. But yeah, it's interesting. You know, I've played Stanley Parable. I've played some of it, Amnesia. What genre do you think?
Amnesia was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, Dark Descent. What genre do you guys think is the most effective in its own the horror genre of games? Is it
There
more
was this
effective?
game. There was
Go ahead,
this
Alan.
game on GameCube that came out. It was similar to the Amnesia, but it was more action oriented. But it had the same concept of jump scaring you from time to time. I think it was called Eternal Darkness. And for me, it was one of the best games I had ever played that mixed it well, exploration and terror and jump scare things all at the same time. They had this concept of sanity, and your character would lose sanity whenever there was a monster nearby, and he would do some crazy shit. Sometimes you would open your inventory, but you didn't press inventory button, and then he starts deleting all the items in the inventory, yet you're not doing shit. And then just goes like a flashback and says, "Oh, this is not happening." It's so cool. And there's all the shit, like for example, shooting the screen, the volume of the television going low, lower, lower, lower. Oh god.
Yeah,
So-
go ahead, Will.
Yeah, so what do you guys like in a game? I mean, there's so many genres, and obviously everybody's going to like different things, but kind of what gets people going? Like, what aspect? I mean, there's certain things that would be relevant, say, to a multiplayer game that wouldn't be relevant to a single-player game, whatever. But what gets you into something?
I like strategic management games.
Strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Narrative.
Your decisions affecting the long term of the game. It's what keeps me on. Yes.
So narrative for me, Mad Cat, was that like dialogue, plot, synthesis of the two, character development? What element of that?
Well, for me, it's all of it.
Okay.
When I play a video game, I mean, I love the stupid ones that are just like go around and shooting people.
Mm-hmm.
But when I want to get into a game, I want to be immersed completely into the game.
And we're talking single player
I don't
games
want
here.
to
We're talking
be.
single player.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
definitely single player
Right.
games that I like. But you know what? Even Star Wars: The Old Republic, as bad as that game was, the first 50 level storyline is actually pretty good
Okay.
for most of the
Ooh.
storylines you can go.
Oh, you got Steven on top of you now.
I don't know if you've played the new expansion yet, but that's pretty good, and the last two expansions before that.
The Gay Planet?
No, my kid was boring.
There's a gay planet.
It's called
It was
that
called
because
that
of romance.
because you can get a LGBT romance option, which
Oh.
for light side you get a male on male kiss, and for the dark side you get a female on female kiss.
Sweet.
Which convinces me I should be the dark side because they have lesbians.
Whoever goes with light side? What kind of a?
We have lesbians.
Hey, I do light side.
What? Dude, okay, so you're saying that when you're playing Star Wars, that's the Old Republic games, and like you have the chance to like kill an orphan or something, you just don't do it?
Why would I?
Because it's an orphan.
Like, come on, Steven.
Ugh.
Get with the program, bro.
Ugh.
Actually, I was a little bit hardcore. I was completely gray with my main character.
Uh-huh.
I was
Oh,
neither
really?
light one or dark one. I always stayed in the middle.
In all honesty, I generally play light side as well. Although I prefer, I always find the dark side characters in the Star Wars franchise to be more interesting.
I like that they all stab each other in the back.
I mean,
Wow.
they actually have feelings. They actually care. And one of the things that is always kind of obnoxious to me about the Jedi is they always have this sort of pacifist, I care about nothing attitude, and it kind of annoys me. Yeah, well, no, they're more than stoked. They don't give a shit.
There are a lot of tropes that are good, and the Jedi just floats around them because they're all do-goodies and pacifists. I mean, there are tropes of a good guy that's kind of like a debauched guy that doesn't care, like a swashbuckler. We have, for example, the concept of the good guys like Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp guy. He's
Right.
good, but he's not 100% good. Yeah. I mean, there are so many tropes that could be good and be used in the Jedi for the Star Wars franchise, yet they didn't use it.
Right.
That's
Well,
what makes for me, that's what makes the Sith more interesting in the topic that Will brought up.
and we can of course all agree that George Lucas is a fat asshole.
Fuck George
Yeah.
Lucas.
However,
He's got tauntauns on his ranch, though.
However, I will say with Star Wars: The Old Republic, I mean, I actually role-played my character through those storylines.
Uh-huh.
So what he ended up with was just what choice would he make in those situations.
Right.
But when I think about, the way Jedi are perceived, I think of an old Zen saying that a water too pure cannot hold life.
Right.
It has to be a little bit dirty in order, or a little less pure in order to be conducive to life.
Precisely.
And I think that kind of really represents the Jedi, that this idea of being so pure that you are actually more destructive than you are helpful.
Well, they're sterile. I think that's where you were going with that. Like a water too pure cannot. I mean, it's sterile water.
Yeah.
It's like fucking distilled nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing. I mean, people think that the dichotomy between the Jedi and the Sith is good and evil. That's actually not what it is. It's passion versus dispassion.
It's almost the way that they portrayed the Jedi. It's almost as if they're portrayed as subhuman in terms of their ability to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Subhuman mongrels.
Well, seriously, and
Yeah.
there's something appealing about the Sith because it's very much about not shutting down your emotions.
The
Sith
Sith are very alive. They're completely alive. And the Jedi, they just don't care. They just don't
The
care.
Jedi are like people who have been fucking drugged up.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just like, it does not faze me.
Yeah, they're just zoned out.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Well, I've always hated that about Star Wars, that light side good, dark side evil, and it's just like, that's why I always went gray. I always felt like I was more of a gray person anyways, but I always wanted to see Star Wars to explore the idea that a light side person could be evil and a dark side person be good. Although technically they have explored that the Emperor had a group of light side Jedis that worked directly for him, but I don't know, I just kind of hate that idea in the movies, and it was just always so horribly done, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, that would have been a more interesting dichotomy, and obviously the movies were badly done because Lucas is a fat asshole. But something that would have been interesting is if the Emperor had been evil, or sorry, dark side, whatever, and all of his minions, right, were all light side, and maybe they didn't know, maybe they did know, maybe it didn't matter. But I mean, it's an interesting dichotomy in human society as well, that there are certain things you want in a leader that you do not want in a follower. And you know, one of the things with the Sith is the rule of two, right? You can't
Ambition.
Yeah, they have ambition, exactly. You don't want your minions to want power and to try and take it from you, but you want your leader to have ambition.
Okay, so we are also joined now by Red Pill Gamers. So Shultz, say hello.
Hello. Sorry for being late. Family issue.
Were you late, or was Guinness incompetent? We couldn't figure out which one it was.
No, it was me being late.
Oh, okay. Well, you're an asshole then.
Yeah, we have to spend now 30 seconds to...
Get your egg timer out. We need to have a full 30 seconds of shit talking.
I'm putting on the egg timer now for 30 seconds.
Okay.
Click, click, click.
Yep. Okay.
30 seconds of shit talking. Schultz now begins. Go.
Okay. Your mom is fat.
Schultz is just a piece of shit. I can't believe that he fucking turned up late. Like, he just ruined the whole show.
Can you even fucking math?
Your mom is so poor. When she's walking down the street with only one shoe, people ask her if she lost one. She says, "No, I found one."
Schultz is a history teacher. What's wrong? Couldn't get a real job?
No.
You know I love you, Schultz.
10 more seconds. 10 more seconds.
No, you can say you love him after the egg timer is dinged. Until then, he can go fuck himself.
No, he loves me in a different way.
Yeah. By surprise and from behind.
What was it they say? Those that can't teach history?
Ding!
Okay.
All right. So anyway, we're talking about games. I kind of wanted to segue back into Fallout 4 real quick because Mad Cat was talking about how he roleplayed his character in.
And because Squee.
So like I roleplay my character in Fallout. I like to give my character dialogue. I like to respond to the characters, and actually like do things in the world and try my. It's really hard in a game that looks like Fallout New Vegas does, for example. But you know you do your best, and I'm really looking forward to just jumping into Fallout 4.
Wait, what's the problem with Fallout New Vegas?
Well, just because the gameplay can give a
So
bit...
good, no one can handle it.
What's this? You sounded like a robot there for a second. What was that?
Yeah, say again, Schultz.
I was gonna say it's so good, no one can handle it.
Yeah, it's so good, no one can handle it. But the gameplay of New Vegas can be a little grating, especially after you... basically, once I saw the trailer for 4, I couldn't play Vegas or 3 again.
Why?
Just because I have this graphical...
What's the big difference?
Oh, well, I mean...
graphics
engine. The engine...
Did you install the graphics improvement?
Yeah.
Do you install the graphics improvement mods?
Yeah, I have all the mesh improvements, and I have all the high resolution.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I've got all high resolution textures for my things. So like, for the most part, it's not that bad. Like I used over 130 mods in several different mod lists when I play Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3. So like I've experimented with a lot of different setups, and I really want to know, for anyone who's actually played in the Fallout world specifically, how do you play it? Because here's how I play it. I play basically a lot in strength, a lot in intelligence, and a lot in what's called luck. And I fill up on items, and I play a heavy character most of the time. Right. So I end up getting rifles and a lot of I find a base, I fill it to the brim with ammo, and then I basically go out in the world with this one mod I had gave me this armor that let me run super fast.
Right.
So I became basically like a Power Ranger in the Nevada desert, just fucking with a minigun in hand, just running through the Nevada desert with a minigun and night vision, like a predator, turning invisible every now and then, like pulling up an anti-material rifle and just sniping a fucking fiend. So how do you guys play Fallout? And even going back more than that, how did you guys play Fallout 1 and 2? If you've played those.
I've done a couple. The two ways I will do it is I either go with a sniper sort of model, where I don't put a lot into strength, just enough to be able to carry stuff, and I have really, really high perception, so I can shoot people right in the left eyeball. One of the things I'm really upset about with the Bethesda games is you cannot shoot people in the crotch.
Yeah, there's no crotch shots.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It was so awesome in the original games. You could shoot them in the crotch, and they're like, I think there was even an animation where like they grab their crotch and hit the ground. That was
Yeah.
magic. That was magical.
Still, I don't know if it's in the recent games, but I know that in Halo, there's almost always been a crotch grab death.
Yeah, I mean, is there a mod for that? I'm not familiar with the latest New Vegas mods.
I've never looked up. There's a lot of
to be a crotch shot mod, and there needs to be an animation for it.
No.
Well, let's say there is mods that
that's
give
a lot
you
of reworking.
Yeah, there is mods that give you
I don't
jump,
care.
and there's mods that give you you can target different areas, so it is possible.
I think we should go to the moon, and then I think we should have a crotch shot in a Bethesda game.
I agree with you.
The other thing I will do is I'll go with a really beefy retard character, and I will get like a big sledgehammer, and I'll just kill everything with a sledgehammer.
You see, that was something I found out that I didn't know because I wouldn't have ever done this. But if you set your intelligence very low, you have a lot of interesting dialogue options.
Your character will be like, "Me, Groot."
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the two things I will do. I'll either go with a sneaky sniper guy that has really high science and all that kind of shit.
What sold for me in the low intelligence build was the ice cream part. Oh, I laughed so hard.
Yes, the ice cream that you get the intelligence check. In the I remember that. So in the Repcon building, there's a for anybody who's not familiar, there's this building in the middle of the Nevada desert, and you go in there and there's all these robots, and they're like, you need access to this floor. Go get in this security card. But if you're stupid enough and you go in with like an intelligence of 1 or 2, there'll be an intelligence check like, what's the password? And you'll be like, ice cream, and you do it like 3 times. You're like, ice cream, and then you get past the check and you can unlock the area. So there are I love little things like that where you can get past like it's great.
What's it say when a robot takes pity on you?
I forget.
You're even dumber than a
I'm
feminist?
just saying philosophically, what's it say in this world when a robot takes pity on you?
When a robot takes pity on you, I think that's just eternal sadness. Anyway, so let's see. Schultz, we already got like a bit of an introduction for Red Pill Gamers from Madcap, but let's hear what you have to say about it. So just like give us a brief introduction.
Pretty much, Red Pill Gamers is the basic assumption is that we all, the group that I have together, we all agree that we looked at gaming and we're not seeing pretty much it really being talked about. We feel personally in the right way. It's a lot of surface analytical things, and more often than not, buy, because we say buy.
Right.
And we want to talk about games looking at it from more than just one perspective, and kind of giving it. We may joke around on the Let's Plays we do leading up to the review, but when it hits the review, we like to really do a sit-down talking about it. And it's not saying yay, nay, bye, but these are how we're interpreting things and how we're ripping it apart. We want to kind of give it that, not actually Roger and Ebert type of feel to it, but enough like that, maybe that progression towards that direction, because many games, some of the games are just simply fun, but some games do have some meaning in there, and we want to kind of tease it out there and figure it out and not give someone like Anita Sarkeesian or Macintosh the only word on it type of thing.
Right, and Matt Cat was also kind of talking about how you'll occasionally like any funny group of gamers, you'll joke around, but you'll also get serious on some subjects, and you'll actually break down and talk about what the actual implications of certain things are. Like one of the things we were talking about was war in general, and so I think that's a really interesting a way of approaching it, because we like to be funny and joke around here too, but occasionally we like to get really serious, and I think that's important sometimes. That you need to have those serious discussions, because it's important to learn to laugh away things, but we also need to have those important discussions and not be afraid of them. That makes any sense.
One of the discussions that Mad Cat had, Mad Cat and I had with Dean Esme was talking about Fallout in particular. Fathers of Fallout, that they did actually have a lot of good, positive male role models, and they did have some bad ones, but they made sense in the given universe how they interacted, how they came about. It wasn't just, okay, you're good because you're a man, or you're bad because you're a man. They actually made sense in their development, how they interact with the environment, and how they're actually trying to survive in said environment.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. Like actually exploring what would it be like if you were in that situation. You know.
Well, it's like one of the points that I for Fallout 3. There's a scene where the girl wants to get all of these certain types of Nuka-Cola. You know, I think it was like Quantum or whatever. She wanted 20 of them.
Yeah.
And that's all she wanted. And the guy who lived next door to her is like, hey, if you give me those, I can give them to her, and she'll start dating me. And if you do that, that's considered bad. However, in Rivet City, there's a woman who wants to get this guy. She wants to marry this guy, but he's devoted. He's committed himself to religion, which requires him to be celibate.
Right.
And you have to go and get Ant Queen Pheromone to give to her so she can convince him to fall in love with her, and that's considered a good action in the game.
That's an interesting double standard.
It is.
Oh yeah. And we're not saying that it's bad or good. We're pointing it out and showing how interesting it is. And it does show the diversity of what human beings can and cannot do, or would not do.
Something that
I think that's the biggest thing that we try not to judge.
Something which
that's not necessarily a gendered issue either. I mean, you're talking about the difference between, and it seems a bit back to front to me, because you're talking about the difference between giving somebody resources so that they can make a persuasive gift to somebody as being evil, rather than taking somebody who is ideologically bent in a certain way and overriding that in order to subvert their will.
With drugs. Drugging them. I mean, by most people, that would be considered rape, but I mean, whatever.
Exactly. I mean, that to me, it's the bigger issue there isn't the gender thing. It's just the fact that those two things have been characterized as good and evil.
But one thing that I find interesting about the entire theme of post-apocalyptic settings is that they actually tend to bias the narrative in sort of a traditional, I guess, context, and by that I mean like 10. Well, 10. No, not even that. Forget that. We're talking, let's say, Walking Dead, for example, which is in today. It's supposed to be happening right now. But if you look at the way that the structure of their community works, or all the communities, you don't really have matriarchies, do you? You don't really. I mean, because the danger and the risk and all that sort of stuff forces everything back onto really old sort of gender relationship lines.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon for games to completely disassociate with the setting when it's creating its morality, or when morality is applied. So you'll get moral standards that actually don't really fit into the game storyline or into the game world, because you're applying standards that apply to for example, a world that hasn't been messed up by a nuclear holocaust.
Right.
And obviously society's morals would change, and moral values and moral standards would change, and it might not necessarily be the best thing to do to preserve the greater good, or what is perceived as the greater good. But you get punished if you don't.
I mean, like, for example, I might, in a post-apocalyptic setting, taking, say, my water away, if I have a couple water bottles, that could put my life in danger.
Well, that's like, in Fallout 3, there's the guy who's outside of both, I think it's Rivet City and Megaton, and you can give him water as a good act.
Right.
And I know everybody here who's played Fallout 3 must have used the water dispenser in their house in Megaton, gotten 5 waters from their butler, then went back outside, given it to the man for free karma. Who did not do that? Come on.
I actually.
Yeah, when
I just did it out of my inventory. I didn't even need to pull it out of the thing in Megaton City.
I don't remember that, but I'm pretty certain I probably just gave it to him out of inventory.
Mm.
But you know, there's something about that morality choice thing that I actually really liked in Knights of the Old Republic 2, where you have a beggar asking you for money. And so you give him money, and it's considered a light side choice, but your mentor, Kreia, is coming down on you for doing that. Like, that's actually a bad thing, because now he has something all of his beggar friends want, and they'll probably kill him to get it. So you've actually sentenced him to death in giving him what he wanted.
Well, you know, I think this is really interesting. It speaks to just how great, I think, and not necessarily better, but how great interactive media is, because you get to make the choices, you know, in games. You get to actually experience, especially if it's done well, in a good role-playing game, you can experience what it would be like to actually sort of be in that scenario and have to make those tough decisions, and that's really interesting. And sometimes it makes you have to stop and think. And there's plenty of times in RPGs where I've had to stop and think, what am I doing here? What am I actually doing here? If I was in this scenario, right?
Well, yeah, I mean but also, I mean, it speaks to how great characters like Treya are. I mean, you could have a character like Treya in a movie or a book, and she'd still be amazing.
Also, we had a question from Kimoy in the chat. Shultz, what was going on when you decided to create the Red Pill Gamers channel?
The short of it was pretty much I was getting more or less frustrated wanting to talk about games, not as just as good as Angry Joe is. He's just a extended version of what we see of the established video game media. He's just extending more reasons why you should buy it, not that if it's a great game. Like, oh, buy it, it's fun. I think the one thing that kind of set me down that path was when he did his Metro Last Light one, when he did that whole bullshit thing of ass and titties scene, and he was trying to make the claim it was, all the women in there are just sexualized, and if you even paid half an ounce of attention, you'd notice all the cities had this diversity of males, females, their interactions, their issues, and dealing with problems, and that one little area is the Venice Red Light District section, so it makes sense. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of ass and titties there. And I just kind of it was slowly gestating. Angry Joe.
Okay, yeah, actually, yeah, I remember that, and I was wondering if you ever heard of this one channel. I guess it sounds similar, but it also is also quite similar to your channel, Red Pill Game Reviews, and it's the creator was Eincrow, but he did a lot of analysis of games and stuff, but usually his sort of approach was to say, well, if you're to look at things honestly, you'll see that the games will say quite a few things about gender or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's not this harmful thing that it's being made out to be. And usually a lot of things he'll bring up would be, for example, the fact that in so many games, almost all of the enemies are going to be men, and his point was basically that if you were to take the feminist
that's
criticism,
how the world is, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, sort of. If you were to take the Anita's sort of or feminist criticism of games seriously, then you'd have to look at this other side as well. But his conclusion isn't so much that it's a bad thing. It's just sort of that games don't really affect things that much. So, but I don't know. I'm just wondering what you think.
Well, I would agree that gaming, as much of an influence it has, I think it's relatively minimalistic, in the sense of it's going to make someone do something. I seriously doubt if you're going to do something, you're going to do it regardless of media is going to tell you whether or not to do it. What I see it as, like, interesting, it can explore many different things. As much Anita Sarkeesian likes to claim, oh, we want games that explore gender and do all this stuff, like, you let the developers do what they want with it, and you'll actually get a very good exploration of it. Max Payne is one of those games that I actually came into late, and I very much loved it and adored it because I thought it was a very good game, and it does show, and this is my personal opinion, what happens when you take something from a human being that they care about and dearly love. You see, and you see, it's the fall of Max Payne. You see how he just completely, pretty much implodes upon himself, and I think, in myself personally, I think that's a sign of what would happen if you lost everything you love. You would probably just implode upon yourself. And I think it says more about humanity more than it says about men or something like that. I can think of, you could probably maybe specifically focus it on a man, and you can see if it's a specific man and how it can possibly represent how men react to some things, but I see it more in a more open, broader point of view.
One of the things that I found to be really impressive with Max Payne was how well done they sort of meshed the comic book, the narrative, and the gameplay all together. They weaved them really. I mean, even if you ignore the story, which was good, it was just so beautifully done. It's sort of like when you watch a movie that was put together by a master director. Even if the story isn't very good, it's just so, everything is cut together so well. All the scenes are framed so perfectly that you enjoy it just for that. And that, I mean, above all else, I think that's my favorite thing.
It could very easily have been very, very gimmicky, Max Payne. It could have just been a game that was remembered for, well, silly bullet time gimmick, well, silly comic book style, well, you know, you've got an anti-hero here. But it wasn't, as you say, Will. I mean, there were moments in that stand out as being some of my favorite moments in gaming. I loved the way that they handled the hallucination.
Right. Well, I mean, that's one of the things that I guess I find so silly about people that say, like, that games can't be art. If you play Max Payne, if you actually play it, it stands up very well from an artistic standpoint with, you know, a lot of the better movies.
Well, my answer to that is what does people mean very pretentiously is it's not the right kind of art. At the end of the day, all games are art. They are, you know, they're artistic creations. They are designed to be consumed in the same way that movies and books and music are. So there's nothing to the argument that games can't be art because they are by definition art.
Right. No, I understand, but it's a common argument.
Oh, it is. It's a silly argument.
Are there any sorry, go ahead, Shultz.
I was going to say, when it comes to the art angle, I'd say the biggest thing that I think most modern critics, and when I say modern critics, I'm talking about the Anita Sarkeesians, the Adam Sesslers, and those type of people that
the
Siskel
Eberts.
Yeah, the Siskel, they ignore the mechanic base of the game, because one of the simple mechanics is Max Payne's pill popping, and it would make sense, dulling the pain, dulling the sense of just getting yourself to move on from the next day to the next day, not caring, just popping left and right. And it's one of those things mechanically you do see in a lot of games. They do say some things.
The way
Back Up the Line is one of those prime examples.
The way Sarkeesian criticizes games is very demonstrative of the fact that she's not a gamer. First of all, the biggest mistake that people who do approach games the way that she does is this idea that games influence reality rather than it being massively the other way around. Yes, games do have an effect of sorts in reality, but they don't generally inform people's decision making. Whereas the themes that you see in games, I mean, you like this whole idea of you could do the opposite to what Sarkeesian does and approach it from a male perspective. whilst you could do that, it would be equally invalid, because the point of games isn't that they are meant to be necessarily telling you how you should be. They're just basically saying, look, this is the way this world is, and we're telling you a story. Now, you can like that story.
I'd like the argument art
interject
reflects life
real quick.
argument.
Like to interject real quick, and you're all talking real great stuff, but a friend of mine who's on mobile chat right now for YouTube wanted to make a comment, and I thought it was a pretty good one, conducive to what we're talking about. Her name is Panina, and she's saying media is a reflection of culture, majority and minority. It's up to the creators to bring that reflection to life, and what that reflection shows the viewers.
It is, but that doesn't mean that they have, for example, it doesn't mean they have an obligation to necessarily be moral in that sense, or to portray something as being moral. And in fact, it's actually more interesting, because it is artistic, to explore the darker side of humanity, such as with Max Payne, who is the tortured anti-hero.
Well, for example, with one of the books that that one book that was written, like some sort of Huckleberry Finn book or something along those lines, they wanted to censor that book because the nigger was said quite a bit in the book, and the thing is that it doesn't really matter whether it reflects reality. They still want it not to be there. So, for example, I mean, I was even looking at the stream that Anita was doing, and one of the things they mentioned, I only saw parts of it. One thing they mentioned was how great it was. They were playing some sort of Assassin's Creed game. Great it was that when you're a woman, you don't get catcalled or something. And I mean, according to them, that would be the reality that you should see, but they don't want that reality to be in the game, because I guess perhaps what their idea is that if it reflects the bad parts of reality, then it will somehow encourage the bad parts of reality. I think that's sort of the logic that they're going by.
Honestly, I don't think video games should be looked upon as a reflection of society. Maybe the reflection of the society they're currently in and what our perceptions are, but we shouldn't take a look at Assassin's Creed and say, what does this say about our culture today? What are people gleaming on this to react in the world? No, it is a story. At the end of the day, it is just a story where we can make up whatever shit we want that exists in this story universe. It makes sense there. Now, we can draw some parallels, yes, but it shouldn't just be, oh, well, this game is teaching us to be misogynistic because this woman character skinned her knee and no one came to help her. Bullshit.
Well, something that I would agree with you to a large extent, but I mean, there's also, at least it makes clear what the author thinks is a compelling story. And what is a compelling story for one culture is not going to be compelling necessarily for another. And that's sort of interesting. So if you look at a lot of these things and you say, okay, who are the bad guys, right? Or who are the good guys? So for example, a trope in a lot of movies is evil corporations or whatever are, I don't know, releasing poison or something. And that's kind of a trope, and it works because a lot of people feel that way. And you know, the corporations are bad because corporations, and that is a reflection of culture. I wouldn't necessarily say that, you know, because there's some game about magical dragons or whatever, that there's something about our culture that has anything to do with magical dragons. But if you kind of look at it from this, you try and get inside of the author's head and figure out why they were doing something, and why they thought something was a good or a bad idea. I think that can be kind of an interesting thing to explore.
See, this is why this whole concept is completely redundant. Games can, I think what he was saying was, sorry, it's Mad Cat, isn't it? Is that games are not necessarily an exact reflection of society, or necessarily a reflection of any sort. But games can be. Games often are. Games often are very much based on real life happenings and historical events, and sometimes they're put in a context where, okay, they'll give you the ability to, for example, in Total War, conquer the entire world with Scotland. But the point is that it doesn't really matter. You can have a game that is a perfect reflection of society, and it can be a great game. The important thing for games, and this is the only metric by which games should be judged, is are they enjoyable to play? Do people get satisfaction and pleasure from playing them? Because they're a form of entertainment.
Well, I want to comment on something that Will was talking about with, like, why do they do this or that? I think this is a story that Shultz told me, but it was about Citizen Kane and the whole idea of the crashing of the snow globe. And, you know, many people for many years have, like, tried to analyze what that scene means and, you know, what the significance of it was. And, you know, when he finally did an interview for it, I forget who the director was, he just said, I thought it looked cool, so I did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And a lot of games fall very much into that category.
Absolutely.
I think it's possible, actually, for a game to have a sort of propaganda, but I don't see that happening that often in all reality.
I mean, it depends on
how effective it is.
Depression quest.
Well, also, I mean, you can look at like a little thing in there, and if there's like an insignificant story element, you can say, well, that might have just been something they did because they thought it was cool. But like, let's say take Avatar for example, the stupid movie about the space Indian Smurfs. And the Neptunian. Yeah, I mean, like who they decided to be the enemy again, corporation for some reason, and then of course the military guys are of course assholes, and who are the good guys? Well, space Gaia tree thing and hair sex, and hair sex because you know you touch the tips of your ponytails together and mind link or something, but. I mean, I just thought that was sort of. I think you can read into that to some extent. I think you get in trouble if you try and reach too far and you go, well, you know, they wore this color T-shirt. You know what that means. But you know, when it's like a major story element, I think that's relevant.
Well, I think the biggest thing that you're hitting is like we need to properly use our critical thinking faculties, which is probably one of the most important things in that. I'd like to at least push that forward. Even if I'm not right, even if I'm completely off basis, I'd rather encourage that in my viewers or any readers that please think for yourself and question these things and like, okay, hash it out. Does it make sense? Does it follow the internal logic of the story or the game?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that's where Anita goes too far, in all honesty. You know, there's some legitimacy to her state, at least worthy of a discussion. And I hate saying legitimacy and Anita in the same sentence, but she goes too far, in all honesty.
I was a little triggered by that. I'm triggered.
She goes too far. It's like, oh, well, because you have to rescue your girlfriend is just now an object. And it's like, no, in a real-life situation, if your loved one was taken away from you, you'd do everything to do that. I often stated that, you know, if they replaced Peach with Luigi in that situation, the game would still make logical sense.
Yeah, of course it would.
It's not that the person is an object, it's that the situation is just very familiar.
They're looking for
Luigi's
motivation.
Mansion. Look at Luigi's Mansion. You know, that was an exact case of
saving his brother.
Saving his brother, exactly.
So I'm interested to know where you think Sarkeesian has a point, or what legitimate things she has to say.
You triggered us. We're triggered.
Well, I'm not triggered. I'm just interested to hear the arguments.
Unbelievably triggered.
Where I would say that she has some legitimacy is that there is this idea of sometimes characters are put into a specific role and they can't get out of that. However, I don't think that's a gendered issue that happens for both men and women. How men are like 99% more likely to die in a video game than a female character. Because most of your NPC enemies are men. And those are the people that
would that be legitimate if you applied it to a novel or to a movie?
What's up?
Would those same things be legitimate if you applied them to a novel or a movie? I mean, again, we're talking about people telling stories here. If they decide to kill off a character, the
And
gender
we
of
are.
the character,
And
they don't have
most of the time
agency.
we don't have a problem with this, but if we really analyze it, it's like, yeah, these patterns do exist.
Sure, but I don't see video game characters as being people. I see them as you know, as non-entities. Then they're not real. They're not in any way anything other than storytelling points.
Mm-hmm. Oh, can I say something?
Go ahead.
One game. Do you remember the reboot they had for Lara Croft?
No.
Kind of. No. Okay. Okay. Pretty much. You know how she talks. You know how she talks about the tropes, all these tropes going on. Now, one of them that I would argue is in the game, but I want to point it out, like how it's properly used. Almost every single male entity that is your friend or companion dies off. Almost every single one of them. And I'm not going to be like her, that's horrible, that's bad. My looking at it was that there was only one male character that got knocked off that made logical sense, that actually had an impact on the story and on the main character, which was the quote-unquote father figure that got knocked off. He made complete sense for her to be this emotional, and he had been with her through the game through almost half the game. And he gets killed off, sacrificing himself to make sure she can live. Whole scene that he pretty much, boom, he gets killed off. A trope that you do see, like the father figure or a parental figure or someone you care about killed off in a game or a movie or what have you. Now they have several other ones which they don't have any true emotional connection to Laura, but they try to make it this big deal. And for me, I would like to look at like, okay, they're using a trope, but that first case, they use it right. They use it properly. Emotional connection that gives the character a motivation to do their actions. The other ones don't make sense because there's no emotional connection between them. And I think that's the type of analyzing that we need to look at.
Well, sure, but again, I mean, is it really all that important? What we know is that some games, or some game designers and some writers are better at telling stories than others.
Well, when I say look at it, I like to look at it like an.
It's something that you
all I was going to say is when I say look at it, when I say look at it, I'm more or less, let's see how they did it right.
Yeah, it's something you can talk about. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be this great problem that's causing everyone to be misogynist or whatever. It's just something you can discuss.
I would add that the conceptor of those video games doesn't look at the book of tropes and go, oh, we're gonna do that one and that scene. I mean, it's an outside perspective push towards the entire game. The guy probably doesn't give a shit. He just wants to make shit explode and shit.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's it. We're talking about people who are creating plots, and you know, not every game studio has a fantastic writer at their disposal. A lot of them really very much do not.
But you got to realize too that some movies are, games are like a movie's exploitation movie. That's just there to.
But also,
some movies are equally badly written and badly plotted. I mean, these
exactly.
are things
even if you take into consideration that some people are shit at writing, whatever they put in their story was something that they thought was a good idea.
Well, that's it. That's where I was going with that. It's like what they're doing is that they're trying to tell you a story, and in order to tell you a story, they've got a sequence of events which needs to happen.
But
because we're talking about games, you're an integral part of that, so you're going to see it from your perspective, your character's perspective, unless they're doing cutscenes, which personally I'm not a huge fan of in games, but you know, whatever. But what happens is you get somebody going, okay, we need this character to, for some reason, go to this location in order to confront this person. How are we going to get them there? And that could be, well, we could take something from them so that they've got a reason to be there, or we could have them commit some sort of violence against someone that they give a fuck about. Mm-hmm. These are really simple plot devices, nothing more.
Right.
When I talk about these elements in video games, it's more, I guess, conducive to what Red Pill Gamers is about. It's just something to talk about, but it really has no real impact on the enjoyment of a video game. All that really matters is it fun to play? Did I get something out of it that I can take with me? Oh, I really enjoyed the story Oh, I really enjoyed killing people. I really enjoyed the options that were available. That's all that really matters. I mean, sure, we can take back and say, hey, look at this white phosphorus scene from Spec Ops: The Line. Wow, that really speaks to something that happens in our life. But we don't have to do that to enjoy the video game.
Of course not.
But I feel that these gaming critics that we're starting to see is looking for something to be offended by. They go into a game, it's like, okay, I want to be offended, let me find something. If I can't find something, I'm going to make something up. And that's where these game critics are taking it way too far.
I don't know, but before the whole Gamergate scandal began, I never heard of Leigh Alexander and all those other fucktards that make stupid articles.
Me too. I had no idea who these people were until the whole Gamers Are Dead thing happened. And it started bombarding me on some of the, I guess, news linking sites that I check every once in a while. And it was just like article after article after article after article after article. And I was like, what the fuck happened? And then I started scrounging around to find out what the fuck happened. And I was like, wow, this is the most incredible internet shit show I've ever seen. This is shocking.
But the thing is, they play by the rule of talk about me in good faith or talk about me in bad faith, but at least talk about me. So they're still getting clicks by doing what they do.
Like Gawker.
Yeah.
No, that's why Jesus invented adblock, my friend.
No, I know, I noticed that, but you know what I am getting to. It's like just being angry at those fucktards that reading those articles bring them views too. So yeah.
No. Yeah, I don't think anybody here is angry.
Yeah, it's not. We're not angry.
Plus, I don't know. I don't actually.
I'm not putting accusation. I'm just saying it like that.
What Magic's talking about is just clickbait in general.
Yeah.
Okay. But Matt, it's interesting.
Jesus has saved us from that problem, though. See.
Matt, it's interesting you're bringing up that white phosphorus scene. I think I know the scene you're talking about, and I guess the Eincrow from the Red Pill Game Reviews was also bringing that scene up because funny thing they did in that is they have this like close up or something of this woman and child who was in that zone that got nuked or whatever happened there, and they sort of like zoomed in on that, even though you already know that you've just killed a bunch of people. They have to show this woman and child to try to like totally like cement it or something.
Well, there's a lot going on.
Hit the point home.
There's a lot going on in that moment that you kind of have to take a step back and realize what the game developers were doing. First off, you can't avoid that scene. You have to do it. And it kind of is a significant I can't speak right now, but it's kind of relevant that oftentimes when you're in military, you don't get a choice in what orders you follow. You just do it. However, you didn't know that you ended up killing a lot of civilians. You thought it was just against, the enemy combatant. So it's not just that you see a close-up that, but you see a lot of civilians just burned to death, basically, by white phosphorus. And for those who don't know, white phosphorus is one of those things that once it starts burning inside you, it's going to keep burning all the way through. And it's very hard to get out of you once it's there. It's basically, unless it kills you right away, it's kind of like a slow burning death that you endure.
It's extremely metal.
But I'm sure Shultz wants to comment on this as well.
No. And my biggest thing is that scene, and it's nothing. And I'm not trying to sound like the male equivalent of Anita Sarkeesian, but it's like it makes sense to set it on the woman getting pretty much fried, mainly due to the fact that we do have an innate desire to protect women at all costs, and civilians and kids. And that scene, I feel personally, would hit really hard to home because, I mean, without it, if you just saw a bunch of people, you'd be like, oh my god, but because you focus on what we do see as pure innocence, it has a harder hit. And that whole scene when they're pulling back, his audio gets distorted. He's completely focused on it, and it's one of the points where it's his actual snapping point, where he starts to lose connection. And a lot of things when war hits, usually women and children are thought of. You must protect them at all costs, and it does kind of. A lot of soldiers, when you saw in Vietnam, when they saw those scenes, they were very much shaken to their core when they're seeing towns and villages brutalized and slaughtered or pretty much obliterated. When they see that, they especially saw women and children strewn around dead, and it really hit them to their core. And I'm not saying sex is anything, but it was a well-done piece. It was an exceptional piece that was perfect to elicit the emotion that they were most likely going for. Not only in the character, but in the player himself.
So am I the only one that cry a little at the end of First Blood? I mean, it was compelling as shit, you know?
I'll tell you a man movie that I cried at, because it's a Chuck Norris film, so it's supposed to be a testosterone-filled movie, and it was. God, now I've forgotten the name of the film, but there's like a really touching scene. Delta Force. The first Delta Force movie was one of the most emotional movies for me, despite being the Chuck Norris movie, because there's a scene in there where you have these terrorists calling all the Jews forward, so all these Jewish men being called to the forward of the plane, and seeing the emotional reaction of all of these characters, and it's all very natural. And it's one of the few times where you see the audience supposed to be feeling bad for all of these men, because usually it's the women we have to feel bad for, and I think it was just beautifully done, and that's not something we really see anymore, not in movies, not in video games. And I think about the White Phosphorus scene where, yeah, we're focusing up on the girl, but we're seeing the reaction of three male characters in this moment, of how they're being touched to the core, how they're unraveling before our eyes. And I think that was something special about that game that kind of took me back to the Delta Force movie.
Have you guys ever seen an old Bogart movie called Sahara? Am I just referencing something ancient? Sorry, I watched AMC movies when I was a kid.
No,
and they would show me old black and white movies all the time, and I'm also a big Bogart fan. But yeah, there's this one scene, and it's one of the few times a movie has ever made me cry. And it only happened the first time I watched it, but because I was ready for it the second time. But there's this scene where a guy, there's sort of this tank crew going through the Sahara Desert in World War II, and there's a guy who, I think he's from the enemy side or something like that, but he's stranded out in the desert, and he's asking for help or something. And for whatever reason, either the characters don't want to help him because he's the enemy and screw him, or they can't because they have resource limitations. And they leave him out in the desert to die. And he's pleading with him. He's just on his knees begging. And they say nope, and they leave, and that did something to me.
You want to know something really surprising? You guys are going to be shocked. Or Shultz and Mad Cat won't be, but everybody else can be shocked. I cry very easily at movies. Aren't you shocked?
Nope.
Moving on.
If Canadian, then weeping willow.
Yeah.
Hey, not all Canadian. Not your Canadian.
You're not Canadian. You're Quebecois. It's not even the same thing.
You're French, dude. We've discussed this.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, there's like a lot movies for me and games for me are very easily get emotional.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you one scene that really moved me, which I really hate Hollywood for destroying for me, was the death of Spock. That's a very emotional scene, especially when you watch the whole movie, not just that scene itself. But the way that Hollywood destroyed it was Into Darkness when Kirk died. And then they just pull that, oh, well, he's not really dead. We save him at the end. And it's like, what was beautiful about Spock's death was that we didn't know there would be a sequel. unlike today, where we know there's a sequel the day a movie's released, we thought that was the last Star Trek movie, Star Trek 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And it had more of an impact that a character was dead. It's like, oh my God, they're not. Can they make any other Star Trek without one of the most principled characters?
Mm-hmm.
So Will, I know you're a huge fan of new Star Trek movies. What did you think of the Deus Ex Triple?
The Deus Ex Triple?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. You have to remember when certain things I really don't like them, I will delete them from my memory quite effectively.
When the Tribble comes back to life, that's the indication that they can save Kirk from.
Yeah, that was utterly annihilated from my memory. So I'm sure that what you're talking about happened, but.
I was retarded, in my opinion. I think the whole premise of the movie was stupid. We already had Wrath the Khan. Why do we need to repeat it?
Yeah, no, I actually, what Wayne is getting at is I'm actually not a fan of the new Star Trek movies.
Neither am I.
Not to bring that up because Wayne and I have gone back and forth on this at incredible length. But yeah, my main issue with it is that it's got all these years of canon. About like this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and what Abrams did was he basically said, "Fuck all that, we're starting all over again," and that annoyed me.
Where Will and I agree is that we both think it would be best for the show if they can, or for the series, if they can somehow kind of twist it around and get it back to the normal or alpha universe, if you like.
Yeah, like if this all turns out to be like an alternate Trek universe, and then they go back to the canon, I'll be fine with it. You know, there's already like the evil Trek universe, you know, where they've got like the Nazi Federation and all that shit.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. This just becomes another alternate universe where Vulcan blew up.
And that's why, as movies, I can tolerate the movie's existence in the sense that they are an alternate universe. I mean, they obviously are. We've already seen that happen when timelines get changed. An alternate universe happens in Star Trek canon. But the other thing is that we both also agree, I think, that they're just horrendous cash-ins, and I mean, bringing back Khan is just so endemic of that.
Also,
it wasn't unnecessary from a money-making perspective. Let's put it
Cumberbatch, or whatever his name is, I don't know how you pronounce that. Actually, can the British people tell me how you pronounce his name?
Cumbucket?
Cumbucket? Like, how do you... Cumberbatch?
Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch,
yes.
It's going to be difficult, because every single time I try and phonetically understand how to read it just by looking at it, it comes out as blah, 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 blah.
I just call him Cumberbun from Princess Bride.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I think he tried really hard to do Khan, and I think it wasn't his fault. Because that could have been a much more interesting character, and they didn't spend enough time with him.
No,
well, he's a great actor, so
you know, I love Cumberbatch.
If it had been somebody else in that role, I can see it being even more of a disaster. I think he did his best.
I mean, raise your hands. Any fans of his Sherlock Holmes thing?
Absolutely, and there's a new series coming soon.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of that. I actually, Guinness squeeze for Fallout, and I love Fallout too, but I squee a bit for Sherlock.
It's a good reimagining. I like the way that they've gone about modernizing the story with that series. They've not gone too far, and they've not gone too BBC with it, which I won't take too long to explain to you, because going BBC with things means.
Anyone familiar with the BBC knows exactly what you mean. You don't have to say no more.
All I need to really say is Modern Doctor Who, the Merlin series, and what was the other one they did recently? It was they did one set in Greece, and I can't even remember.
Here's the thing with the BBC, and this is it's very analogous to a lot of mainstream network television in the United States, where they have this very contemptuous notion of what the intelligence is of their average viewer.
Absolutely.
And they basically want to make everything. They want to speak to what the presumed level of their audience, and it's very condescending. And so you'll watch. an NBC, ABC, whatever network show, and it's very lowbrow. And
now
well,
I'm going
there's good reason for that.
discuss the BBC.
It's called the lowest common denominator. We
Yeah.
see this in all medias, but the problem with it is there is a lowest common denominator. Most people are actually really stupid. Only a minority of us are actually above that, and it would probably be everyone in this room.
In the case of the BBC, it's that their lowest common denominator isn't stupid adults; it's children, and that's what the problem is. That's why the smarter shows are the ones that are shown post Watershed.
Well, but here's the thing: the error in writing and program design is to think that the correct thing to do is to keep everything below or at that level. Whereas what a more clever writer will do is they'll put multiple levels into the same program. So the people that actually are lowbrow won't get those jokes, but there'll be other things, or they won't get that plot element, but it doesn't matter because at their level there's something else going on which they find completely satisfactory.
A good example of this is with Futurama, and if you pay really close attention, they throw in quantum physics equations and all kinds of stuff. Which
is... like Futurama has like more than 2 levels. Futurama has like 5.
Yeah, it's got about
the quantum physics stuff is like if you're a quantum physics nerd, then you get that one. You know, I mean, not to denigrate quantum physics, but like. How many people actually would recognize a quantum physics equation if they saw one, right?
Exactly.
And it's thrown in there.
And they're throwing them in there as bloody license plates and what have you. But
exactly.
But then on the bottom level, they've got Fry making stupid noises, which can also be bloody hilarious.
Exactly. That's just kiss my shiny metal ass is happening. So
one of my favorite episodes actually is the Star Trek episode When No Fan Has Gone Before. And that entire episode is just a series of different layers of humor. And my favorite moment in it is the moment at close to the end where he's doing they've got Kirk doing his William Shatner, that is, doing his Slim Shady, and they ask how did he do a spoken word version of a rap song? And La responds, he found a way, with this most reverent tone, and it cracks me up every time. Every time.
Yeah. There's a joke that's said in there that it's very funny, but you don't really laugh at, but you kind of like. It goes by quickly, but I really love it. They're all trying to plan with each other how to defeat the others. And they're like, we're actors, we don't know what to do. He's like, hey, you remember that episode where I threw a shoe at the guy, and then he takes off his shoe and throws it at George Takei, and then he's just kind of hopping there saying, my foot is cold. And it's a very funny joke, but you don't laugh at it, and it's just like, that's a humor that is just really embedded in there. It's really deep in there that you don't even realize really happened, and yet you loved it.
Yeah, well, it's a very smart show.
If you take, let's say Game of Thrones or what was it, Breaking Bad, there are, again, it's another one of these shows. They're both shows where there are multiple levels. So you might just be interested, say, in the violence and the excitement, say, of either of those shows if you're just sort of just in there for the stabbings. But if you are looking at it more carefully, you're seeing sort of the intrigue, you're seeing sort of the political dynamics that are going on there. Dealing with, say, Tywin Lannister is probably not an especially interesting character if you're not paying attention to the politics. But if you are, then suddenly you see all the things that are forcing him to do one thing or another, and you can sort of reverse engineer his whole personality and how what he is what he has to be to survive, to exist, to obtain any of the things he cares about. Like, he's not even necessarily making any choices. He's just aware of what his options are. The
the thing with game, I want to be careful with this because I know most people here probably don't give too much of a crap about spoilers, but there might be people listening now or in the future who do. But the thing that you need to be aware of with Game of Thrones, especially if you're reading the books, you will be aware of this. Is there are basically tiers of people. There are tiers of players in the game.
Right.
And Tywin Lannister thinks he is in the upper echelon of the Game of Thrones.
Right.
And he's certainly not a bit player.
No.
But he's also not he's also not a Premier League player.
No, exactly. He thinks he's the king, but it turns out he's a knight.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to really quick rewind to games a bit. Does anyone have a problem with that?
Sure.
Yes.
I was about to do that myself.
We're gonna be talking about your cat at some point. So
authoritarian shitlord.
Yeah, just carry on.
Well, I am the czar of the conversation now.
Well,
so.
we can twist it back into the Game of Thrones games if you like.
Actually, okay. You know what? I can do that. I could do that because I've been playing the Tales from the Borderlands, which is a game series from
Telltale,
which created the Game of Thrones games.
Yeah.
And I very much am. I've been a bit of a fan. I think I enjoy the story gameplay, but I think they should be cheaper. I don't know. I think there's not enough gameplay there to make me spend the money I felt like I spent on the game.
What did you spend on the whole series?
I spent $25 on 5 episodes.
Wow.
Okay, and you
did you not get it whilst it's on sale?
No, I
It's
didn't.
been on sale numerous times.
I'm not a fan of Telltale games.
Really?
And the way that they they basically cash in again on the success of other IPs.
That's why I think they should be cheaper.
Yeah, well, they should be. I certainly wouldn't suggest that you buy their games when they come out, because an example of this is the Minecraft game they've just done.
Yeah.
Oh no! Shut up.
And I think it's
Everything I'm saying.
19...
I have to forget immediately.
Well, it's like I don't know how much it is in US. Probably $25 for the first episode. And just this idea of playing an adventure game that's got a Minecraft skin makes it suddenly like 5 times more expensive than it should be. It's offensive. It's downright bloody offensive.
Well, Telltale Games has done at least one thing correctly. I mean, they did Back to the Future, which was horrible. They did Minecraft, which was horrible, but they did Sam and Max.
Sam and Max is great.
Sam and Max,
from what I saw a friend play that, and it was a pretty good game. And it was an established IP. I don't know if they originally owned it or not, but they took something that no one had seen for quite some time and just threw it out there and said, "Hey, look at this thing that you all forgot about."
Mm-hmm.
I liked what they did with Walking Dead.
Really?
Yeah, Walking Dead was pretty good.
Okay.
A lot of emotion in there. Haven't played the second one, though.
Did anyone play The Wolf Among Us?
I have. I like that.
Yeah. Anyone else play it?
No.
I do not know.
Has anybody played Always Sometimes Monsters?
No.
No. Oh, dude. Okay, so it's super weird. It's like it's like something you'd see made in fantasy RPG or something, and like it's really adult. Like within like the first 30 minutes that you play, you go to this club that like one of your friends is like having a show at later or something, and another one of your friends, like who's a heroin junkie or something, broke up with his girlfriend or whatever, I forget, and like you like find his needles and whatnot or something like that, and you like can decide whether or not you tell him about it, and you can decide if you like try to comfort him and tell him to get off heroin or stay on it. It's pretty brutal. And also like right at the beginning you get to like choose your character and whatnot, and you're talking to people about like, oh yeah, this book blah 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 I'm writing, and then the people are like, oh, can you show us your partner? And then I'm like, oh, okay, he's writing a book with somebody else. So then I picked like one of the avatars in the crowd and hit A, and it turns out it means my lover, so my character was gay.
I want to inspire a thought here. This entire conversation has inspired something, and I want to share it with you. It does relate to video games, but basically it's this. I think that there is an attack on men specifically for our enjoyment. If you look throughout history, but especially in the last 30 years, I mean, start with like the Prohibition, and that was women trying to get men to not drink after work, to get relaxed and enjoy, just to go straight home. We have video games where we're told that the things that we love to enjoy, and Mario was talking about it in the chat a little bit. I did see your comment about it's just about having an escape, but getting away from everything. And yet we have these feminists such as Anita Sarkeesian trying to take this stuff away from us, trying to take away our enjoyment.
Well, they can't.
There's even porn. Porn is the same way. You know, we have Gail Dines and Andrei Dworkin attacking porn and saying it's just this really, really bad thing. And to me, there's a pattern here of trying to attack the things that allow us men to relax, to get away from it all. Like, we're not allowed to relax in any way whatsoever. And all of these things we love is under attack for this simple reason. And I wanted to get your all's thoughts on that.
I would say that's probably true. I mean, there's throughout history, there's this sort of women wanting to stop men from having. I mean, they would say, for example, the suffragettes, or not suffragettes, the people for the Prohibition would say it was all about domestic abuse, right? Like, oh, we don't want men beating their wives. We don't want men coming home and getting drunk and beating their wives. You know, that's what they would say, and it's obviously it's an excuse just to impose a greater rule on the majority.
Well, I mean, this isn't a new theory. This is something which has been talked about for some time now, and where I first started noticing it, I guess, was in television, where the same thing applies. Whether you've got this kind of dumbing down of male roles and this idea that, I mean, and we're going back as early as the 90s here, where the roles of men were seen as largely negative, and men's behaviour was seen as reprehensible. And if they behaved in ways that are very, very typical of the way I used to act when I was down the pub with my friends, with my mates, it's the same kind of thing. And there's been an attack on what are traditionally men's spaces as well, and this has come about in the UK through the smoking bans in pubs. It's killed the number of pubs in most towns. There are pubs shutting down or being bought up by breweries and running at a loss. And it's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous situation. These places used to be like the last bastion of freedom, if you like, from the other sex. If you wanted to get away and escape for a while, you'd go shoot a few games of pool and have a few beers.
Mm-hmm.
Will?
I was just agreeing.
No, but thoughts on Mad Cat's statement?
Remind me, sorry?
Basically, that women and feminists are attacking everything that men need to relax.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was talking about this in chat. I mean, I think all these sort of ploys are ultimately, there's no way they can possibly win. And so I'm not actually especially concerned about protecting that. The other thing is, I'm probably going to be taken as a crazy person for saying this, but I honestly feel that they're more of a cat's paw for a larger sort of political phenomenon, and I don't see the feminists themselves as being formidable or threatening, but I do see what's behind them as being more of an issue, and that just kind of relates back to Marxism and that kind of stuff, where there's this notion of demonizing meritocracy and increasing dependence and regulating everything through some sort of priesthood of some sort of ideological priesthood, and making it so that competition in any form is inherently morally wrong. morally wrong or problematic. Put on your problem glasses, and that's. I mean, so that's kind of a lot for a lot of people to swallow. But you just have to have no gag reflex. So
take a look at it, and from the context of the schools and education system as well, the way that has been gradually tailored more towards.
They always go hand in hand. They always go hand in hand.
And it's very, very common. People joke about it, and this is one of the issues with this thing is people. They see it as funny rather than see it for the danger that it is, because it is just one characteristic of a greater malaise. But this, you get school sports days where everybody gets a prize because we can't have losers and winners. And just the idea of that. I mean, I didn't encounter that personally when I was at school, but just the idea of it, I find it just downright disgusting.
Yeah. Well, the kids know who the winners and losers were.
Of course they do.
Most of them do.
Well, no, but see, this is no. See, this is actually a really common theme in Marxism, where one of the core concepts is the idea that you can change human nature, because human nature is antithetical to this whole notion of no competition or whatever. That's just not the way that human beings work. But the thing is, it needs to change for Marxism to work. And therefore, a theory in Marxism is that you can change these things. Because if you couldn't, then the ideology would be doomed to accomplish nothing ever. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing. And I think there's a belief. I don't find the Anitas of the world to be especially threatening because they're not very clever. But I think some of the people that are behind them tend to be much more. They tend to have more cards in the deck, and they. I think they see women as a fifth column, I guess, to introduce Marxism into Western society, because they tried to do that. They've been trying to do it for the last 100 years or so, and it's been rebuffed rather strongly, repeatedly. But if you can de-emphasize competition, if you can re-emphasize dependence on the state, if you can break down the family, if you can do all these things, then at a certain point they should be able to do it, or at least they should be able to try and have the system collapse on itself, which is kind of where it goes if they win.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that Anita Sarkeesian poses a threat to the games that I enjoy. I don't think that I don't even think that that's her goal. I think we've discussed this before, where I have some kind of muted admiration for Sarkeesian because she's found a way to make money from trolls.
Right.
And fair play to her.
Well, I mean that was what we were talking with Verilo a few days ago, and or like a week ago, whatever. And Verilo was saying, I agree with this. A lot of these people, what they do want is just money.
Yeah.
And
that's not usual.
Yeah. And I completely agree. I think the feminists ultimately their end game is I get a bunch of government grants.
I wouldn't argue that they're all that way. I mean, I think there are probably some idealistic, wide-eyed feminists who swallow wholesale, But
sure, but I mean that goes back to what we were saying about lowbrow, highbrow.
I'm sorry, what was that about swallowing wholesale?
Yeah, exactly.
No gag reflex. No gag reflex.
But the ones that are, the ones that we're talking about, people like Anita Sarkeesian, they are very much opportunists. And as I say, fair play to them. If I could make millions and millions from telling everybody about how oppressed I am and how much people offend and attack me, and, oh yeah, dude, I'm super oppressed by all the people who who rightly or wrongly call me a noob in online gaming.
Yep.
I mean, there's these people, they have such a profound effect on my feels. By the way, I've got a Patreon account if anyone's interested.
Yeah. No, I was playing a game yesterday. I was playing Smite, and somebody told me that my build was retarded.
Yeah, dude.
Well, Wayne, I think Wayne was there. He saw that somebody called my build retarded.
I immediately went on Twitter and got
Yes.
thousands of
Yeah.
people to come to your protection.
Oh,
Yeah.
was this your tanker?
I didn't care. Yeah, I didn't care because I fucking dominated the morons. And the real issue was that they just didn't expect me to do it. But well, whatever.
How dare you play the game in a manner that doesn't fit with my ideology, dude? I mean, come on.
How dare you build a mage as a hardcore tank and then jump right up in their face and then spam the laugh macro over and over again in their face as they can't kill me.
So let me get this straight. You spammed your macro all over their face?
I did.
Yes, you did.
No, the most overpowered thing about Raw, if anyone who plays Smite, the most overpowered thing about Raw is his taunt. It is massively overpowered.
Can't disagree with that.
Caca, bitches.
I mean,
So the question is, I guess, is where do you go for the discussions about games? That I mean, I tend to find those discussions where people look at games purely from the perspective of talking about them as pieces of art or as experiences, and it tends to be on kind of small forums or within smaller communities. Where you've got people who are interested in like for example people who are massively interested in the lore surrounding a game, or people who are interested in the kind of the history of gaming and how the games that we have now, how much of the good things that we see in gaming we owe to the past and things that were developed by other games or great games in the past that kind of define genres.
I'm going to push back a little bit here because I've noticed that this is a thing with art in general. Art in general is that people always look in the past and they say, look at how much better everything is in the past. And what I think a lot of people miss is that there's a lot of things that were made in the past that you don't know about anymore, that you've forgotten, because they were crap. And the only things that really survive over time is the good stuff. So when we look back, we see basically only the good stuff. I mean, a lot of people like to look at old movies and they say, wow, all the old movies are better than new movies. Well, yeah, they were making something like 50, 60 movies a year in those days. And
I could name 20 games from like the early 90s that were execrable.
Right. Well, maybe I was mischaracterizing your position, but
no.
I've noticed a lot of people will look back and they'll say things in the past were amazing, and then you got to like, okay, let's actually look at all the games that were released in that year and give them all like a rating, just like refresh the memory of what it looked like in like 1995 or 1992 or 88 or whatever year we're choosing.
Yeah,
what you're talking
about. If we're talking about
mischaracterizing what I'm saying. What I was talking about is there are games out there that have defined or created genres.
Sure.
And you're talking about things like I don't know how many of you here remember the games based on Frank Herbert's Dune. But Dune 2 in particular was responsible for pretty much shaping every RTS that's come since.
It shaped Command and Conquer, and that influenced Warcraft, and then that just became a thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting, kind of following the passage of time, being able to look back retroactively and see this thing. At the time, it was just like a fun game, but now it's like, without this, would we even have some of the things we have now? And from that point of view, looking at games in that context rather than, wow. Well, aren't games sexist?
Well,
okay, hold on. I have a question. So if you look at games and compare it to something else, like maybe TV or movies, does anyone here think that TV and movies has more consciousness about not pissing off feminists, or does that not exist at all? What do you think? And I'd like the guests to give their answer first.
I'd like to take this one first, if you don't mind, Shultz. I will take your silence as a yes.
Silent consent.
No. There's no consent without an affirmative.
I think that movies and television is controlled more by establishment media than video games, and the establishment, which I do think exists, uses feminism as a tool to try to control the population. And I know that sounds very conspiracy theorist and whatnot, but it's just how I feel. I think television movies are trying to cater more to a feminist market because the feminists are more likely to make trouble than any other group of people out there. They're more willing to rise up and say, this is misogynist and we should boycott it. And those in Hollywood are afraid of feminists.
Well,
Can
I push back just a tiny bit here? If you look at the demographics on television shows, like the actually who watches them,
I'm sure it's not feminists.
Well, no, but it shifts hard female for most television shows, and like the summer blockbuster movies, the big action movies shift male, which is why you get movies like Guardians of the Galaxy where the guy has where Chris Pratt has the woman in his spaceship that he forgot was even there, and he's like, "Oh, you're still here. What's her name? What's her name?" And then the green chick is like, "Oh, your spaceship is disgusting." And he's like, "Oh, you should run a blacklight around here. It looked like a Jackson Pollock painting." That those sort of comments, you're not going to get any of that in. It's a consequence of the demographics. I live in Los Angeles, and one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about Hollywood is they are very oblivious to a lot of things in culture because they're sort of in their own little bubble. But at the same time, their objective is generally speaking to make money, and they don't really care about anything outside of that. Now there are people that are doing like little art projects or whatever, fine, but the big flagship stuff. There's too much money on the line for them not to be all about the dollars.
I think this is two different questions about two different things. How much time have we actually got to discuss this? Because it is a very involved topic.
Well, actually, how are Shultz and Mad Cat doing on time? Because we're about at the 2-hour mark. So, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to keep going, or how are you doing?
We can definitely do other shows if you guys don't want to do it.
Sorry, go ahead.
We can do it now, or we can do it again.
No,
we can do it now, or we can do it again. I'm free right now.
All right, let's continue then.
Oh, so my opinion doesn't matter, bastard shitlords.
No. We don't need your consent. We don't need your consent, Mad Cat.
Also, I apologize, Mad Cat, if I derailed because you were explaining something. I just wanted to push back a little bit, but like if you want to finish your point or call me a fuckwit and say I'm wrong, that's fine. Go for it.
Well, you are a fuckwit, but I love you anyways. But come on, I have to say the mean things. Well, what I'm saying though is that it seems, and you know what, you make a very valid point, and I was a little bit wrong on that. Movies do seem to cater more to men. However, if we do look at the evolution of films in the last 30 years, it used to be very much, about being a man, with some of the movies that we had. Even with like Terminator that had a female lead, it was still very much a man's movie. But we look at films today and they seem to correspond more to what women want. It's really trying to get women in there. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But TV especially, and I'll agree with you on movies, it is still catering more to men. But TV, I just can't help but notice. I turn on some random TV show, there's some feminist issue going on there that's catering to women in some way of, oh, well, this man over here is being bad because he's not paying any attention to me whatsoever, and I feel bad, and he's awful, even though I won't tell him how I feel. I see that kind of shit all the time now, and it's like I'm playing bingo, really. I'm like, okay, he insulted her, he's bad. Okay, he's going out with his friends instead of hanging out with his woman, and seeing if I can make a bingo in a single episode of a television show. Video games, though, seem like the last bastion of where men can still be men and not be judged for it. And it's because it's very much an interactive medium where we can take from it what we need and get together and talk about it. And that's not something we can do anymore with movies and television shows. I mean, back in the day, we had Star Wars and Star Trek, and now I feel like Hollywood has really betrayed the people that these things were designed for, and is really trying to go out for everyone else to enjoy it.
Again, I just like to. I mean, again, one thing that I think would be really interesting, and Pat, the guy who's just looks like P or whatever, that's got the little green avatar down there, is very into economic arguments as well. And I think in this particular case, I would say what you'd want to look at is what the demographics are for, and maybe it's something of a chicken and egg thing where they do something and it causes men to stop watching. But the demographics on television for everything besides sports tend to shift very hard female. Sports shift, of course, very hard male. And so
stealing my thunder.
Sorry, it's mine.
Yeah,
it's okay.
No, it's mine.
Back, letting you have all the thunder here.
It's my thunder. Fuck you.
Say, so.
Yeah. But see, like, it's one of the reasons why I'm not threatened by Anita in the game space, because the demographics for women in games is so fucking horrible. I mean, they can say whatever they like about casual games, but the people that actually make these things are not fooled by that bullshit, because they actually need to make a living doing this. And it shifts so hard, male, that there's no point. Anita is battering her head against the wall.
Shultz, did you have something you wanted to say?
To be fair.
Schultz, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, actually, he was hitting it right on the head, the demographic attitudes of not only games, movies, and TV shows, because if you do notice, morning, daytime shows is almost predominantly female through and throughout, and then you'll hit the evening hour, which is the family hour, which is slightly more family orientated, but because if you look at the early hours, it's pretty much women on the rags bitching about stupid shit. It does bleed over very much into the family hour, because quite honestly, it's kind of easier to write that shit if you really look at it in the long term, because the soap operas, they're fecal matter at best.
I love that you talked about women on the rag during daytime and then saying it bleeds over.
Yeah,
that was a beautiful
pun. That too. The thing with games where I do I question what you're saying there, Will, is that there are certain genres, certain types of game where the gap is closed, or even in some cases has gone the other way, but they are still very much outliers. We're talking about things like The Sims, we're talking about certain MMOs, but the majority of certainly AAA titles, the primary audience remains young men with lots of spending money, and with expensive machines that are designed specifically to play certain types of games, whether that's a console or a PC, it doesn't matter. But I don't think that necessarily means. I think the issue here is two different things. You've got what feminists want to see in the market, and you've got what women want to see in the market. And what women want to see in the market, they're already spending their money on it. This isn't something that needs to be changed, or certainly isn't something where you need to subvert what's already there. There's certainly room in the market for games that have a certain kind of ideology. If there's a market there for them that's big enough, then those games will be made and people will buy them. But you don't have to replace one thing with the other. But yeah, the demographically, I would say the movie-wise, I agree with what Mad Cat was saying. There has been a definite change over the last 30 years where movies were primarily marketed at, say, 18 to 36 males, and there is a lot more diversity in the types of movie and the demographics that are catered to, but it is still largely a male audience.
Again, if you take that and you look at there have been demographic shifts over the last 30 years, and particularly at who is going to movies. And what the Hollywood guys want to do is they want to buy a yacht with the money that they make from selling the movie. And they don't really care what the movie is. And it's one of the things that's actually really funny when you... anyone ever seen the incredible and movie Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
Yes, that was great.
Okay, so so the amazing performance of Tom Cruise as Les Grossman. That is actually not a terrible represent. I mean, it's a character. Character. I can't speak either. Yeah, there you go. It's a play on a well-known trope. But the thing is, I don't think anyone outside of say Los Angeles knows actually how accurate that is. They really are very much like that. They are all about the dollar bills, yo.
Yeah, it's verging on not being a caricature almost. It's almost like they've taken somebody and just incorporated their personality into that performance.
Yeah, and it's funny too because Californians, generally speaking, are very, very nice to the point of being obsequious. But at different, we have subcultures, and one of the subcultures is sort of high-end management in just in business in general. And there'll be this stark shift, where you have sort of these Steve Jobs personalities dealing with the regular Californians, which are just kind of sitting there saying please and thank you to everything. And then you'll have Steve Jobs telling people to fucking kill themselves. Just because, I swear to God, Gladys, if you fuck this up one more time, I will skull fuck you with it. I mean, it just turns to that. And,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's sexual harassment, and
So we have a good comment here from the chat from Mario, so I'm going to read it off. He says, "Ask yourself, Wayne, why is it that women are so upset that games companies take the time to cater to a male audience? It all seems to me that their ideology drives them to become incredibly selfish and hostile towards anything that does not center on their interests."
Why women are upset that games companies take the time to cater to? I don't think it's women. I don't think women have a problem with it.
Why?
I think that you would have to conflate feminists with women in order to make that argument, and that would be wrong to do so. I think that I mean there are games out there that do have largely male audiences. And women aren't sitting there en masse going, well, where are our games? Because they've got their games. They've got games that they prefer to play that aren't the same games that, for example, I prefer to play. So it's simply feminists just trying to control yet another form of media, because that's one way that they can try and get their message across and control the thinking of other people.
Yeah.
Well, for example, if you look at something like Atheist Plus, you have like a bunch of you have like this demographic of mostly men, and then you have this big push to bring more women into it.
I think that generally Hollywood is just getting lazier and lazier. No more original shit, and also you get the infantilization aspect of it, where there's always like superheroes movie coming out for some reason. Okay, Batman is cool, but yeah, it's like the sixth time you're making it now. So.
Yeah, but that's just the money. I mean, like, imagine if you didn't care about what you were making at all, just at all. Like you were selling cheese. You just don't care. All you care about is, okay, I've got this much money in my bank account today. In 6 months, I want there to be this much in my bank account. That's all they care about.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question. Why would the people? Okay. Here's a question then. When it comes to sort of like Mirror Edge 2, or even like the Mad Max, why are these people consulting feminists? What's the point of that? Is that going to make them more money?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no. See, what they're looking at is there's a lot of social media really has business in general, not just Hollywood.
No, it's just starting shit. Like, if you're capable of making controversy in the beginning.
Are you familiar with current advertising theory as regards social media? Right. So one of the things that's going on with that is there's a notion of taste testers, I think is what they're called, or there are people that are taste makers. Mm-hmm. And so basically what they do is they figure out the demographic they want. They find out which tastemakers speak to those demographics. And then what they do is they say, okay, how do we make those tastemakers like us? Then what they'll do is they'll make everybody that they talk to like us too. And that is literally what a lot of advertising and social media is. It's determining who listens to whom, and then figuring what those people like, and then tailoring your product to what the tastemaker wants, and then the tastemaker makes the demographic like it.
Precisely. It's like when EA approached Anita Sarkeesian and said, "We want you to come and have a look at this game and to offer your input." What they weren't doing is hiring a consultant because they had some kind of moralistic turnabout in their company where they realized, oh, we have to be this certain way. We have to have a pro-feminist bent. What they did was they went, okay, if we get Anita Sarkeesian to come and be a quote consultant for our game, and then we do a press release to that effect, then it's going to create a media shitstorm, and our game is going to sell. And there's nothing more to it. It's not because they developed a feminist conscience.
I think Hollywood has figured out rather ingeniously that it's better to have feminists on your side than against you. Whereas in the past, when you have a controversial movie and people are talking about it, it was always a good thing, even if they were saying bad things about you. If a feminist says, oh, this movie is bad and you shouldn't watch it, it can actually affect the success of a product. So having a feminist come in makes it look like we're trying to cater to the feminist market. Even if they don't take any of the suggestions, they're trying to get the feminists on their side. So even if Mirror Edge 2 didn't listen to one idea that Anita said, Anita has already said, hey, we should give this product some recognition for bringing me in.
Right, but that comes out of the advertising budget, though.
Yes.
So what I normally would have spent on billboards, newspaper ads, television ads, whatever. I go around to some of these the tastemakers, and I give them each a few grand, whatever their fee is, and then they megaphone my product on social media, and it does well. And Hollywood it actually.
Okay, I think.
Let me just finish off here. Hollywood, I don't think, especially regards feminists as being valuable. I think what they do is they condescend to them. Mm-hmm. Because they don't care, but they know that they can reach people, and that's all they care about. That's just my opinion.
It doesn't matter whether they take them seriously. The fact that they even condescend to them is somewhat meaningful. Like there is no, I don't know that there's any attempt by any cosmetic industry to appeal to men or anything like that. They're perfectly satisfied with their demographic, and why couldn't gaming developers just be satisfied with their own demographic? It seems like you have an external force pushing. It's not just completely.
Well, no, that's nonsense, though, because
it's not the same market.
Well, right, no. See, here's the thing: if it was possible to get men to put eyeshadow on, the eyeshadow companies would absolutely be making a push. I guarantee you.
Well, they have done.
Yeah,
they have actually
welcome to the
exactly
80s.
That.
Welcome to the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, not only was that a huge thing back in the 80s, and also to an extent in the 70s as well. But
also the metrosexual thing.
You've got the metrosexuals. You've got all kinds of things that have been marketed at men that traditionally weren't. And they did that because, again, there was money in it, not because society demanded it. Not because there was some kind of ideological requirement of it. It was just simply the fact, here's a market, let's see what we can do with it, and it was successful, so they continued. Where it's different, though, is that you couldn't, for example, start pushing lipstick on. I think that would be a bit of a step too far. But with games, there is a growing market of women. And like it or not, the media voice that speaks largely to these women is predominantly controlled by feminists and by people with a feminist bent. So where it differs from the makeup situation is there isn't a strong male presence that is telling men, hey, you know what, you deserve these things too. This is unequal treatment. There should be a market for male products. Why don't we get nice things?
And that's sort of my point. You don't have that. I mean, you don't have, like, we're satisfied that we don't have, we're satisfied with the fact that cosmetics isn't for us. So, but you have external force saying that women should be unsatisfied with the fact that there is this core gaming that panders mostly to men.
Weren't cosmetics originally for men then?
Mm-hmm. They were. I mean, I wouldn't say they were originally for men exclusively, but men. I mean, particularly if you look at aristocrats, who are the people who are going to be buying cosmetics in any case. Yeah, male aristocrats were putting on cosmetics all the time. Sure, why not?
Yeah, Mario says
Well,
like
men
17
used to carry purses.
France.
No, but the trend was to get taller because the taller you are, the more richer you are. You don't have to work it outside.
Right.
What is this, Invader Zim?
All right. Well, that's our first silence in actually a long time. I think that's.
Oh, I was silent because Ad joined us in chat and I've become distracted.
What you have to realize is a moment of silence that lasts longer than 3 seconds, and Eric immediately starts shitting himself.
True.
Oh, well, here's one thing that I am actually legitimately concerned about. Are we bogarting the conversation, Red Pill guys, and because Wayne and I will fucking go back and forth, and no one can get a word in edgewise.
It depends. I can get my 2 cents on. From time to time, I diverge from the topic. So.
Yeah, well, Magic throws out like some pictures of cat fucking, and that's the mind comes to a screeching halt. But yeah,
So we know how to get your attention. Good.
No,
Well,
it's just,
yeah,
you know how to make me stop.
No, but
but this is the kind of shit we do on Red Pill Gamers, so it's not really a big issue.
Yeah.
I know the Red Pill guy. I think I was in the stream with him before.
Okay.
Guys are fucked.
Hmm?
What?
You're fucked.
Oh my god.
So
getting
yeah. Was there anything you guys wanted to talk about? Are we stopping you from having a conversation you wanted to have?
Well, I just came here at random because I saw that Shultz wasn't here. I'm like, well, we need to represent us,
Represent.
But I do want to mention some plans that we have for the future.
Cool.
About why
Show away.
people should check us out.
Yes, please give us your skills.
We are actually planning a website. We're hoping for a December 1st release, opening up our site for everyone to check out. And for right now, it's just a place where we post our videos that we have on YouTube, and also doing some video game journalism, trying to add to what we want video game journalism to be.
Are you doing any kind of a Web 2.0 thing? Like, can people interact with it, or is it very much Web 1.0, where like you guys put? I mean, perhaps your group is inclusive, but you put out things, and the site is what people put on it, or is it like people are able to kind of post their own crap on it?
Is the user-created content is what he's asking.
Yeah, that's what Web 2.0 means. Fuck yeah.
I've never heard those terms before, but it would probably be 1.0 because we're just using WordPress. We'll have basically a blog format.
When you say you're going to be getting into journalism, are you talking about videos or articles?
Articles.
Okay. Then come talk to me after the stream, and we can revisit that. But please continue the shilling.
We also want to post other projects that we're working on, but there's also many of us are within the men's rights movement, and that's an important issue for us. So there will be some discussion on that, but
cool.
It'll be a work in progress, so it is something we want to involve to be to be less inclusive of just us and to have more interaction with our possible fans. But we're also realistic in the sense that it's going to take time for us to build up. We're not expecting to be the thing that everyone wants December 1st. It might take us a year before we get any real traction, but we definitely want an interaction with people out there who have thoughts and opinions that feel that maybe they get unheard in this sea of everyone else basically doing what we're doing. So that's one way we want to stand apart from everyone else.
Well, you can't because Eric got there first, didn't you, Eric?
Ha! Yeah.
Ha!
Yeah,
shut the fuck up.
You were what you're doing is very similar. Yeah, what you're doing is very similar to what we're doing. So, or at least it's very similar in the sense that like we want to reach out to, and then like literally everybody who comes here is just originally a viewer of the Honey Badgers.
Mm.
And we're just kind of grouping together and trying to get everybody to have a discussion, to have talks and argue about stuff, and at the same time bring in opinions that aren't normally heard.
And also to try and move away from the ridiculous kind of arguments that go on, between people of differing ideologies, where the conversation tends to go, well, you're a misogynist, well, you're a female supremacist, well, there we go, we're done.
Right.
Hey, Matt Cat.
Yes.
Do you like Ted Cruz?
Do I like what?
Ted Cruz. Ted
Cruz.
Oh, Ted Cruz?
Yes.
Let me explain what's going on here. You don't get this. What happened was we showed Magic some excerpts from the debate the other night, and Magic really enjoyed the shit that was coming out of Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was basically slapping his dick off the face of the moderator repeatedly, and every single time that happened, Magic was squeeing a little bit.
I like it.
Are we sure that Cruz is not D's nuts in disguise?
No. But do you like him or not?
Honestly, after voting for Obama in 2008, I've just given up on politics. I think there's only one political party, and it's going to find a way to screw me over. So.
Okay.
The party knows.
But that wasn't the question. The question is, do you like Ted Cruz or not? Maybe you give up on politics, but you can know the guys randomly.
Can you enjoy a man standing in front of a national audience, unzipping his pants, letting his dick drop to the floor, and then slapping it off someone's forehead every single time they even look at them?
It's funny that you say that,
Enjoy that? Hell, I want to be that guy.
That's what he did. It was so funny. I mean, politics aside, every single time they so much as got anywhere near him, he was like, "Really? You guess you forgot?"
Magic doesn't even care about his politics.
No,
he just
Magic.
The fact that
Magic doesn't give a shit about politics. That's the thing you don't. I'm trying to so you can understand where he's coming from. He just enjoys having someone slap their dick off someone's forehead.
Just like trolls.
Well, I'll need to go and see this, but when I say that I'm not getting involved in politics, I'm just saying I don't really have an opinion one way or the other on Ted Cruz. But if he's doing this kind of shit, then I need to see a video of this, because I need a good laugh.
Well, Magic will post you a link to the YouTube thing with his favorite scene. Magic, why don't you go find that?
Unless there was more shilling to do, it kind of brings us into the whole
here's one thing I wanted to throw out there. I know you're saying you're using WordPress. I'm extremely proficient in a lot of this sort of stuff. And I'm just saying, if you wanted some assistance in setting up a more interactive website, I'd be happy to point you at the plugins, because WordPress can do it. WordPress, I don't know if you're familiar. It's a very flexible platform.
Very versatile.
Yes, it is extremely versatile. And there is certainly, if you guys, if you're not aware of a module, I can point that at you and I can show you how to integrate it into your thing. Or if not, I mean, I'm just saying, don't limit yourself to what's possible simply because, hey, I don't know how to do this. Because there's somebody in the community who does know how to do it and would probably be very happy to help you.
What Will's saying is he wants to take over your website.
No. If I wanted to, I take what I want. But I'm saying if you want any help with that, I can.
Well, let me.
I can shoot some things at you, and yeah, sure.
Let me respond to that. I'm actually very familiar with WordPress. I actually have WordPress hosting with GoDaddy.
Okay.
And that's what I'm using for all of the sites. I'm always into learning new techniques, and in fact, I set up goodguycomic.com, which
okay, cool.
Filling that out. But I had to learn a completely new way of using WordPress that I didn't know, and I actually quite enjoyed it. So I'm always open for suggestion, and if there's something you think that I might need to look into to try to enhance my site, I'm 100% interested, in all honesty. I don't know if we'll do it, but I definitely want to learn.
Absolutely. No, it's your site. You can do whatever you want. You can change the theme to "Here's my cat," but
here's my mad cat.
Yeah, whatever. But I guess all I was saying is I think that I'm a big fan of Web 2.0 as regards sort of building communities, and if like anybody understands, because what it really does is it bridges the gap between a traditional website and a forum, right? Where any jackass can come in and say, here, so like, you'll have Magic who will just show up and it'll be like, here are giant Asian boobies, for no reason.
I really like that concept, but it's been my experience that you shouldn't start off with a Web 2.0 approach, because you'll waste a lot of resource trying to get that up, and then no one ever uses it, and it's like, what the fuck am I using this for? Like, I once tried to set up a forum system on Good Guy Comics that no one ever used.
Right.
So I just eventually took that off. I'm not against Web 2.0, but I think it's something you should build up to, in all honesty.
That's fine. I'm just saying if you want people to come to the site and see it as sort of a community nexus or hub or touch point or something, it helps if people can come in and just drop their 2 cents in it, like Magic showing up and saying, what do you think about Ted Cruz for some reason? It's a thing.
And I think that would be a very good thing to work towards. But yeah, I'll connect with you after the show and talk to you about that, because I'd be interested in what resources you have, because I want to definitely learn about it. So
sure.
Yeah, that kind of ties us into what we always do here, and I think we're kind of I assume we're approaching the end. I mean, we're about 2.5 hours. We can keep going if you guys want to, but we always invite everybody who we have on here to come back, and we would love to have you guys on in the future, and we'll connect with you after the show and all that, and we'll set some stuff up, and we can definitely do some networking and figure some shit out.
Is this the time to respond?
I don't know.
This is the time I say,
Well, I definitely enjoy these type of shows, so I would love to be back on in the future.
Yeah.
Well, there is literally no bar to that other than your own bar.
Yeah. So, what else do we do? We want to keep going, or what do you guys think?
Did you came already, Guinness?
I did.
You know what? I think we've covered a lot. We're at what is 2.5 hours now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should close the stream.
Yeah, and we've gone on to talking about each other's projects and kind of having sidebars about that rather than talking about issues and what have you. So I think
all right, yeah, let's close it off. So I'd like to thank everyone who's watching, and thank our guests for joining us today, and everyone who's our regular guests as well. So anybody who's watching still or in the future, if you'd like to come on, just go ahead and message me on YouTube or through Google+, or you can tweet me at Eric D. Hicks, and you can maybe come on the show sometime. Other than that, this will be the end. So everyone say goodbye.
Cheers then.
Say goodbye.
Fuck you, get it.
I'll devour you all later. Ugh.
Say goodbye.